What about it, YouTube? Okay, there's something that is strange about the year 2025. DEAGEL is a forecasting website that has been talked about because they've got a very interesting forecast for the year 2025. And so we'll start with that. This is DEAGEL.com. This has been talked about by other people. This strange circumstance with the United States being forecast to have its population drop by 2/3 in 2025. Now, the connection with DEAGEL to the government and to clandestine agencies within different governments is very curious. And then they have this thing down at the bottom that's interesting. I don't know if I want to read it all, but it has to do with people wanting to know what's going on with this 2025 forecast. They bring up Ebola, but then they say that that was not used in their forecast. So I'm not sure what the deal is. It's like, oh, don't you realize that Ebola can kill a bunch of people? And they kind of talk about a financial crisis, and they compare what will happen in the United States to what happened to the Soviet Union when communism fell apart, when the USSR fell apart. Anyway, that's interesting, right? That these guys have this forecast. Something else that may be interesting, I don't know if it's connected, and I don't know if I'm on the right track, but there's this letter that Pilate wrote to Tiberius concerning the death of Jesus, or the life and death of Jesus, and it's very interesting. The entire thing is just very powerful. And here at the top, I'll just read this because it kind of talks about the validity. It's a historic letter written by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar. I have in my possession a copy of the letter written by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar, Emperor of Rome. This historic letter written by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar letter is from the Arco volume, containing manuscripts in Constantinople and the records of the senatorial docket taken from the library at Rome, translated by Drs. Mackintosh and Twyman of the Antiquarian Lodge, Genoa, Italy. This has been checked and is in accord with the copy of the original lodged in the British Museum, which has verified the accuracy of the transcription, verified in November 1935. Okay, so assuming it's legit, sounds legit, okay? You can cross-reference things that are written in it with things that are found in the Gospels and with things that are found in, like, the Apocryphals, like Gospel of Nicodemus, for instance. So it seems legit. It speaks legit. It sounds legit, okay? So, assuming it's legit now, we get down to where there's this part in the letter where Pilate's talking about how he was getting pressure from the Herodians, from Herod, from the Philistine, or the Sadducees, and the other group out to get Jesus. What am I trying to think? Pharisees. Okay, and so he's got all this pressure, and so he asked Jesus to come and see him, and he wants him to just kind of chill out his discourses so that Caesar won't have to, in his words, employ the instruments of law. And so then Jesus, it says, calmly replied, Prince of the earth, your works proceed not from true wisdom. Say to the torrent, to stop the midst of the mountain gorge. It will uproot the trees of the valley. The torrent will answer you, that it obeys the laws of nature and the Creator. God alone knows whither flow the waters of the torrent. Verily I say unto you, before the rose of Sharon blossoms, the blood of the just shall be spilt. Caesar likes Jesus, and he comes back and says, your blood shall not be spilt, said I with deep emotions. You are more precious in my estimation on account of your wisdom than all of the turbulent and proud Pharisees who abuse the freedom granted them by the Romans. They conspire against Caesar and convert his bounty into fear, impressing the unlearned that Caesar is a tyrant and seeks their ruin. Insolent wretches, they are not aware that the wolf of the Tiber sometimes clothes himself with the skin of sheep to accomplish his wicked designs. I will protect you against them. My praetorium shall be an asylum, both day and night. Then Jesus responds. Jesus carelessly shook his head and said with a grave and divine smile, when the day shall come, there will be no asylum for the Son of Man, neither in the earth nor under the earth. The asylum of the just is there, pointing to the heavens. That which is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished. Caesar replies, young man, I answered mildly, you will oblige me to convert my request into an order. The safety of the province which has been confided to my care requires it. You must observe more moderation in your discourses. Do not infringe my order. You know the consequences. May happiness attend you. Farewell. Jesus replies, Prince of the earth, replied Jesus, I come not to bring war into the world, but peace, love, and charity. And then this is the part I really want to focus on, although that last sentence was very interesting compared to what's written in Matthew. He says, I was born the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Okay, remember that. Persecutions proceed not from me, I expect it from others, and I will meet it in obedience to the will of my Father, who has shown me the way. Restrain, therefore, your worldly prudence. It is not in your power to arrest the victim at the foot of the tabernacle of expiation. Back to this. I was born the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Okay? That, to me, that's a clue. Call that a clue. Perhaps we can use that to identify a day that perhaps Jesus was actually born, because there's debate. Obviously, I mean, December 25th is just a celebration day. It's not regarded as the day, I don't think, by anyone specifically. But it was cold, so we can say maybe it was winter. And then there's also debate because it was a monk who, in like the 5th or 6th century, who used the information he could gather to try and date the day Jesus was born in order to start a calendar, day one at that point of Jesus being born. You know, the world didn't come to a stop when Jesus was born to fix their calendars. Okay, that came later. And that came in like the 5th century. So the guys using all the information you can get. There's a lot of debate on if you got that right. There's people who have arguments that move the day usually back by anywhere from 3 to 10 years. It just depending on their argument. So we have a calendar that a monk created and used the best information you could get to try and guess the year that Jesus was born. So that would be one, okay? But we have Jesus saying that he was born on the first day, on the same day that Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. So what could that mean? Can we find out what that means? So I tried to research it. First thing you come up with is information on Pax Romana. That's just kind of like a loosely thrown out period of 200 years. Some historians date it back to the last battle that Octavian later became Caesar Augustus against Mark Antony, and so they date it back to like 43 BC. Some date it back to 27 BC when he actually took control as emperor. But it's just sort of a Pax Romana just is like it was. Everyone agrees it began with Caesar Augustus, but there's no like day, okay? So how can we find a day? What more could be out there that might identify this day that he gave peace to the Roman people? Okay. So what I found was this. Era passes. All right. And gives you a couple dates. But I think the date that would be most interesting would be this one, because it was in the winter and it was when it was consecrated. So that makes more sense. So perhaps this date is of significance. Perhaps this is the day that Jesus was born. January 30th, 9 BC. Okay, if we assume that that's the case, okay, what year would have been his death? All right, well, we know he was 33 years old when he died. So I plotted it out so I won't make any mistakes, because there's no year zero, and I didn't want to cross over the timeline and make a mistake. So I went back to 13 just to see what that would create, but it doesn't matter. You can start with 9, and you count yourself forward 33 years, and you land on what? You land on 2025, folks. I just think that's interesting. If this information is to be considered correct in some way, then 2,000 years would be, from the cross, would be 2025. 2025 is when DEAGEL says that a lot of people die. So, interesting to me. And there's also people Christians who regard every 1,000 years on earth as a day to God. And so, this is just stuff I've heard, but they use like the cubits of Noah's boat being 550, and then that somehow correlates, don't ask me how, to Jesus coming 5.5 God days, or 5,500 years after Adam. Okay, so anyway, it's just interesting because there are people who count off every 1,000-year period as a day to God. Okay, maybe that's true. So that would put Jesus coming exactly. In God days, he would have came at noon, lunchtime, on Friday. Okay? And then right now, and particularly 2025, will be lunchtime on Sunday. Okay. Anyway, just interesting to me. I don't know if they correlate. I don't know if there's something that can be gathered from this. But it's interesting to me that, regardless, it's interesting about DEAGEL having this forecast. And then it's kind of double interesting that 2025, in theory, could mark exactly 2,000 years from the cross. All right, that's it, folks. God bless you.